Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. On the show today, we are going to talk about the Great Nicobar Project, which has set off one of the biggest debates on development and security in recent times. At a cost of 72,000 crore rupees, this ambitious plan aims to transform the Great Nicobar Island, the southernmost island of the Andaman and Nicobar group in the Bay of Bengal, into a major transshipment and economic hub. Now, this multi-dollar infrastructure and strategic plan proposes to build a deep water port bay to handle millions of containers a year, an international airport, a 450 megawatt power plant and a new township for thousands of residents and the workers. Hailed by many as a game changer, it could make India a key player in global shipping lanes, also reduce dependence on foreign ports, generate thousands of jobs and bolster our maritime security right at the mouth of the Malacca Strait, one of the world's busiest shipping lanes through which about 40% of the global trade passes through. Further, the Great Nicobar Project is significant not only for infrastructure and trade but also for its national security and strategic importance for India. But ever since the project's launch in 2021, it has witnessed significant backlash from environmentalists, indigenous rights advocates and conservationists, including also the political leaders who have raised concerns about how the development project can exploit the rich repository of biodiversity and threaten the existence of the tribal communities. So today in Perspective, I'm joined by two distinguished guests who know these islands well, and they will explain to us why the Great Nicobar Project is of immense strategic significance for India. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome on this edition of Perspective Lieutenant General Ajay Singh, retired, ex-Commander-in-Chief, Andaman and Nicobar Command. He writes and speaks extensively on defense and strategic matters. General Singh, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program. I'm also pleased to welcome Rear Admiral Dalbir S. Gujral, retired. He served as Chief of Staff, Andaman and Nicobar Command. Admiral, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to the program as well. General Singh, allow me to begin the program today with you. First, help us and our viewers understand better why is Great Nicobar's location so important for India's security in the Indian Ocean region?
Firstly, thank you for having me on the program. And I assume that anyone who's listening in on your program would be a little familiar with the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which are part of our country and our strategic asset. They may also know that there were many countries who were vying for this island when we became independent. Pakistan tried to get these islands. Myanmar was claiming some of them. Indonesia later laid claim to some of them. And the British decided that they should come to India for many reasons. That's not the aim here. But there are 836 islands over two, as we know them, geographical island chains, the Andaman Group and the Nicobar Group. So the island you're talking of, and this chain extends about 750 kilometers north to south. And of these 836 islands, I've got the figures here, 145 are in the Nicobar Group and 691 are in the Andaman Group of Islands.
Right.
And your viewers may be interested in knowing that only 31 of them are inhabited. Only 10 of the islands in the 145 in the Nicobar Group have population on them. Mm-hmm. And 21 in the Andaman Group of Islands have population. The southernmost of the Nicobar Group of Islands is the Great Nicobar Island, which you are talking of. That's in the news because we have great strategic projects lined up for it. And I'm so glad that finally they are fructifying. But it's to give a sense of what we are talking of. The whole area of the Andaman Nicobar Islands is, if you're talking of Great Nicobar, it's only 921 square kilometers. And it's only 11% of the total 8,249, to be precise, square kilometers of the Andaman Nicobar Islands.
Right.
And 921 square kilometers is a little bigger than Singapore, which is 728. Sikkim is 7,096, which is smaller than the area of Andaman Nicobar Islands. Now, the strategic significance. Delhi, incidentally, is 1484, and like I mentioned, the Andaman Nicobar Islands are 8,200. So Delhi is about 1.5 times of Great Nicobar, that southernmost and most critical island. Mm-hmm. There are shipping lanes where tankers and ships carrying trade go east to west, and over 80% of this cargo moves through a channel called the Malacca Strait. And there are two major shipping lanes, or the major shipping lane here is the 10-degree channel and the 6-degree channel.
Right.
And the 6-degree channel is straddled on the southern side by Indonesia, the Bandar Aceh province of Indonesia, the Aceh province, and on the northern side by this island, Great Nicobar Island. So that is the strategic significance, and I'm sure now it may pique the interest of some of your viewers to Google it and see where they are.
Absolutely.
Like
And most importantly,
Andaman
how does it strengthen India's role in the Indo-Pacific is something that we will discuss in due course of the program. Admiral Gujral, of course, it has, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of trade, we understand that the significance of the islands. But what about the military and the naval benefits? If you could tell us about what kind of military or naval facilities can be supported by the new port and airport, which is proposed in this ambitious Great Nicobar project?
Firstly, I would like to inform the viewers that there's a concept of choke points in the maritime affairs. All the traffic, all the shipping which has to pass through from Indian Ocean to Pacific Ocean, the ASEAN, Japan, China, has to transit through Malacca Strait. If they don't travel through Malacca Strait and they avoid Malacca Strait and take longer routes such as Sunda Strait and Lombok Strait, it adds to time as well as cost, and it goes into millions of dollars. And therefore, transiting through Malacca Strait saves both time as well as cost for the merchant traffic. And the strait is used for the passage of naval ships which are passing from South China Sea via Singapore. They're coming across Asia, and then through Malacca Strait coming into Indian Ocean. So therefore, it's a very vital point in the Indian Ocean. And this Great Nicobar Island, entire Andaman Nicobar chain, sits right on top of this choke point. Therefore, any country which possesses a dominance over a choke point is strategically very important. Firstly, it aids our service. Secondly, it serves as an important turnaround port that the ships which are passing through both for trade, they can stop at this place, such as Colombo is for Sri Lanka, Singapore. You have Gwadar, which has been in news by China. Everybody is developing ports to take advantage of these trades. And if we are sitting and dominating this strategic choke point, it becomes a vital interest for the defense forces of the country.
Absolutely. General Singh, from a Tri-Service Command perspective, if I would like to understand from you, how we did operational hub, which includes a port, an operational airport, which also includes a power plant on the Great Nicobar, how do you see that enhancing India's deterrence as well as response capabilities in the region?
See, I was the Commander-in-Chief, and I think I am grateful for those who preceded us, especially the national leadership. After the Kargil Review Committee report, and then the group of ministers report was accepted, and I think it was Prime Minister Vajpayee's time, and the Andaman Nicobar Command was raised. The command is the only integrated theatre command, we hear of theaterization today, which has the Army, the Navy, the Air Force and the Coast Guard placed under the Commander-in-Chief, who's charged to protect these 836 islands and our EEZ around the islands, which are India's interest, to protect them. Now, when you say, how do you protect these islands? I told you only 31 are populated. Supposing someone comes and sits on an unpopulated island and starts using it as a base for drug smuggling and other anti-national activities. So we patrol these islands through everyone's collective effort and we protect them physically. But then to survive and sustain yourselves, you need ports, you need airports. Your eyes and ears are the local people. You need to integrate everyone. It helps them, and so often we carry out medical evacuations, we assist them when there is inclement weather and otherwise. But the whole cycle of development, there are human aspirations. People aspire to do better. Those aspirations, these islands are a good tourist destination, but tourism will only thrive when facilities improve. So it's the cycle of growth everywhere in the world. And greater ports, better development feeds into the aspirations of the people, feeds into national aspirations. And these islands, they have some blue flag beaches, which are one of the most beautiful. It's like a Michelin star in dining. So the government has got plans to improve all this and thereby improve the quality of life of the people also. So I think it's all a well thought out cycle of growth and development and aspirations being met.
Admiral, India has been advocating even within the Quad with the partner countries that we stand for a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. So how do you see this particular project strengthening not just India's presence in the Indo-Pacific, but also our resolve in achieving what we stand for?
Increases our reach of surveillance. Now, if you will to ensure that the trade is free, you have to keep the area under surveillance. This directly enables the surveillance of the area, maritime surveillance of the area. Our ships, which are currently, they have to transit from Port Blair or they have to come from Visakhapatnam or other ports, they will be able to do operational turnarounds and maintain the entire area under effective surveillance. So it increases our reach. It increases our reach into Indo-Pacific. And if you also utilize other facilities which will be created inside this project, it will definitely aid the overall India's role in the Indo-Pacific and in the Quad.
It's a long-term project, Admiral, but how do you see the Great Nicobar Project also strengthening the naval doctrine and in context of strengthening India's Act East policy approach as well?
Yeah, this whole project came up as a Act East policy. It was in the historic context. It started off as a Far Eastern Naval Command and to enhance India's presence eastwards. And later on, when it finally got commissioned in 2001, when the command came up, the Andaman and Nicobar Command, from Far Eastern Naval Command, the command was known as Andaman and Nicobar Command. But the aim right from the beginning has been to increase India's, look east policy, to make our naval presence more active eastwards.
Let me go back to General Singh. From an integrated command standpoint, sir, if I may want to understand from you, now it's a proposed plan, but in terms of infrastructure, what all will we need to make the base operationally effective? It's strategically very important. The plan is quite ambitious, and in terms of what it aims to achieve is certainly remarkable, at least from the military point of view. But what is the kind of infrastructure that we need to develop in addition to the four proposed plans in context of the radar, the communication, the roads perhaps also in the area to improve connectivity? And how do you look at those in context of the concerns which are also being raised? Ever since the project was launched in 2021, we've seen consistently how the environmentalists, the conservationists, some political leaders have recently also opposed this plan. How are we also addressing these concerns?
You've asked a very pertinent and important question, and as a military person, it sometimes disturbs me greatly. I cannot understand. We've read about, I'm sure people have read about history. They've read about how our borders need to be secure. We've heard that famous saying, "O King of Magad, your granaries are full and your people are doing trade because your borders are secure." The security of our country comes first. I've served for 2 years in Sikkim. I remember the problems we had with the Forest Conservation Act. And there was a parliamentary delegation which came and we presented to all of them. And finally, I remember it was the Additional Solicitor General, Mr. Tankha, who took up the case then. And the Supreme Court formed a committee who started giving expeditious clearance for forestry. And then the government notified that border areas will not come under the Forest Conservation Act. This is all for security. If you look at Maslow's need hierarchy, even the Maslow's hierarchy of needs says physical security is first of all. Right. We don't aspire for anything separate for security and defense. But the moment you have airfields, we have only 4 airfields, Diglipur, Port Blair, Car Nicobar and Campbell Bay, out of which only Port Blair is the one which can take civil flights. As per this new project, Campbell Bay would also be developed. More aeroplanes can land. It benefits the local people. And Diglipur also, which is at the northern end. So if airports get developed, if ports get developed, like I said, the fruits of development go first to the people. Indians don't covet anyone else's territory. We don't have expeditionary aspiration to go across our borders and seize territory. But we do want to protect our own territory. And the protection of our territory gets facilitated if there is communication from one island to another, if there is road communication by which you can move people to protect your interests more easily. We are just talking about protecting of our interests.
Admiral, because the concerns are being raised and we've seen there are assurances that have also been made. In fact, the environmental clearance that was given also includes some of the mitigation measures, but that perhaps seems to be not enough for those who are criticizing or who want the project to be rolled back. How do you think India can reconcile the strategic need for infrastructure with the imperative to also protect the indigenous communities, the sensitive ecosystems? Is there anything more that we can do so that we can strike the right balance?
Yeah. See, as you have alluded that the environmental clearance was accorded in 2022 after due diligence.
Yes.
And there was almost 13,000 hectares of forest which was cleared, and there is compensatory afforestation which has been planned. The location of this project cannot be replicated anywhere else in the country. So this place has to develop. It got not only for the military but also for the trade. It is sitting right on top of Malacca Strait. Therefore, if there is any additional compensatory forestation or any other measures which can be taken, India mainland is a very vast place. More afforestation can be done. The government can, do slightly more to assuage the concerns of environmentalists. However, right in the beginning, that very due diligence has been done, and it is not that this project has been given environmental clearance through.
One thing that makes me curious is that this project is so big, given the infrastructure and the trade aspect, but also given the military and the strategic perspective that we've already discussed with both our guests. General, this project is being compared to Hong Kong or Singapore. Of course, that's great news for us from a security standpoint, but are these comparisons realistic, or are there any lessons, positive ones, the best practices that we can adopt from these places when we are developing this project?
I'd like to make 3 points. I'd like to reinforce what Admiral Gujral said. He brought out some very pertinent points, and I think there are 3 dimensions to the argument, and we should look at all 3 concurrently. There is one dimension which is of trade. Like I mentioned, security follows. It is inherent when you have better communication. Absolutely. By way of ports, airports and roads, interconnecting roads. The trade aspect is that, like we mentioned, there is an east-west shipping lane where big tankers, big container ships move. It's not economically viable for these container ships to then come to mainland India and offload small cargoes, which may be part of what they are carrying. So you have transshipment ports. Currently, our transshipment is taking place largely at Colombo, 40% owned by Chinese, where the transshipment is taking place, and at Singapore at Malacca. They get into smaller ships and come to Indian shores. So one is the trade aspiration, where we are making our own transshipment port, which will reduce our dependencies and save us money. The other is the aspirations of our people, like I mentioned, of development. And I'm surprised, I mentioned Maslow's need hierarchy, because everyone who talks about the rights of the tribals. Let me give you some figures. There was a census of 2011, and the government has done a projected census figure, and I was just looking at those at 2021. The tribal population of Great Nicobar, which are the Champins, were 238 as per the 2011 census. And it is projected to go down by a figure of 9 and become 229 in 2021. No census has been done thereafter. Secondly, like the Jaravas, 480 to 380 in the North Andaman group, they got assimilated. If you go down and you'll meet the people, I've been there numerous times, The Shompans largely stay to themselves, but they also have a system. If they are not well, they go to a place where there's a bus stop and bus services. They sit on a bus, they're not charged any fare. They come to the hospital, they get treated and they go back. Food is left for them, they take what they want. They're a very different type of society, but their population is reducing. And no one is saying they are separate people looking after tribal affairs. And the Nicobaris, whom we are talking of, there were 27,000 approximately in 2011 census, 38,000 now, scattered over many islands. So the interests of these people. And the third was these environment concerns. I would like to ask these people, how many trees were there in New York Harbor before it became a big port?
Right.
Where are the trees of Singapore Harbor? And for those who want to talk about trees, we own these islands today. There is Dakshin Gangotri in South Antarctica, where we it is as per the UN treaty, that little part is Indian. Supposing there were trees there, would people start saying that don't cut those trees? These islands belong to India, but they do not affect or impact the climate of mainland India. They are 1,300 kilometers from the nearest part of our coastline, 600 from the Arakan landmass of Thailand.
Right.
So therefore, if we are talking of trees per se, it is not because it's impacting. Then let's talk about the trees in Vanuatu or Guinea-Bissau or any other part of the world. If we are worried about climate change in India. Now let's talk about trees per se if you are worried about trees in Andaman. The largest tree cover of anywhere in India. And I was putting up the data and that's what I was looking at here. I've got the figures here. I'd gone for a conference to Calcutta on this. Arunachal Pradesh has 80.3%. Our forested area in Andaman is 86.93%. This is forest survey data. Haryana 3.63%, Ladakh 1.35%, Rajasthan 4.87%. So if out of compensatory afforestation, a few trees are cut, even if it's few thousand or few lakhs, and planted on mainland India, it's not impacting these islands. From 86%, they may come down to 83% of tree cover, which is more than anywhere else in India. And I assure you it's more than New York Harbor and more than Singapore Harbor. And there are those who are talking about leatherback turtles. The same people will acknowledge that before the tsunami, they never hatched so much here at Galathea Bay. They changed their hatching pattern after the tsunami. And I'm sure after development comes here, they will shift somewhere else. But the tail doesn't wag the dog. Let these side arguments not derail our development agenda for the people and for the security of our island territories.
I think that answers a lot of those concerns. Admiral Gujral, another concern is about the seismic risks. So what is your take on that? How can we ensure that the infrastructure that we build, and there is a concern that perhaps dredging will also lead to a lot of ecological imbalance, and it may lead to such disasters in future. How can we ensure that even if infrastructure is built at a mass scale, it is resilient to tackle these kind of disasters? So for example, the earthquakes, the tsunamis that may happen, how are we preparing on that front?
Yeah, see, these days, the construction which is done takes care of them being earthquake resistant. And this whole area, that is not only the Great Nicobar Island, but the entire area falls in the same seismic zone. And you have development such as Singapore, entire Indonesia, Malaysia. They are developing ports. Even in our own country, the Port Blair is now more than 2 centuries old. There is a phenomenal amount of infrastructure which has come up. And we were there and we keep experiencing these minor earthquakes almost on a daily basis. But the life carries on. It's the construction techniques. Today, if you see Japan, it's a very earthquake-prone country. But see the kind of development they have done. So the structures which can be built are earthquake resistant, and the development continues. So I don't think so. It's a concern which should stop us from developing our own strategic interests. Sansad TV.
Absolutely, you're right. And the other aspect, General Singh, on the Shompen tribe, protecting the Shompen tribe, how can better civil-military coordination help protect these tribes while also building a secure base in the area? That's one of the biggest concerns that also being flagged.
We have two, three unique things. The administration has a department of tribal affairs. They try to ensure continuity of the people who interact with them. We also have a territorial army battalion which is recruited from the local people. So when they come on duty, they come from those villages. Some of them speak the Shompen language. I've spoken to them. They go to their areas. Some of them come from those areas, and they are the ones who are most sensitive. And they carry for us, they need this, and it is provided for them. And we're talking of 229 people who are spread over an area which is half the size of Delhi. And forested area, and largely forested, let me say, and beaches and whatever. But there are 2 points I'd like to make. I'd reinforce what Admiral Gujral just said. Let's remember, there is a conceptual construct and there are downstream details. I mentioned to you the tail doesn't wag the dog. The hierarchy in any organization looks out for the long term and they give a vision which is defined by a conceptual construct. I would believe that in this case the conceptual construct, उसके 3 पहलू हैं जैसे मैंने अभी बताया. एक है trade. By setting up a transshipment port, we facilitate our own transshipment for our country. We save money. Then that development has trickle-down effect for the local area and the people, the islanders as we call them. The second is development. I mentioned the trickle-down effect. There would be development of the island, tourism coming in, money into the pockets of the islanders. And तीसरा conceptual construct का पहलू है protection. We don't covet the other's territory, but we want to protect our own. We want to make sure no inimical elements come and sit on one of those unoccupied islands. So this is the conceptual construct. To facilitate this conceptual construct are the downstream details. So if you can say that, okay, this is a seismic zone. Do you know that Delhi is going from seismic zone 5 to seismic zone 6? The National Building Authority will change the parameters for houses to be approved and buildings to be made to withstand an earthquake in seismic zone 6. Japan has earthquakes, they have building norms for that. So the downstream details will include compensating and taking care of everything that may have to do with an earthquake, a tsunami which may impact from a mid-ocean earthquake, or anything which is impacting what would happen as a consequence of development.
Right. And
let me remind you, the population of this Great Nicobar is possibly less than a population of a very small part of Delhi.
Right.
1/4, I think, of R.K. Puram. Or not even 1/4, I should say 1/10 of R.K. Puram. So when you are talking of 10,000 people in Great Nicobar and 229 of them are Shompens, then please grant it to the administration and the government to know what they are doing, and don't get distracted and get a halo effect by giving overweightage to people talking of trees and people talking of Galathea Bay and turtle hatching. These are all red herrings, and I dare say, I will not give you details, but some of it has been sponsored as known to our government agencies by those who are anti-national, and money is coming in from abroad to sponsor much of this.
Thank you, General, for addressing each of these concerns, because the manner in which it's being played out prominently, and it's also raising doubts in the minds of Indians. It's important to understand that the Great Nicobar project plan that has been devised, a lot of experts and a lot of research has gone into it over the years. It's already got environmental clearance, something that we've already spoken about, and the project is not just an infrastructure plan. It's a vision, it's a decision that we make today. It's going to secure our tomorrow, and especially in this fast changing world, it's important from a strategic point of view as well, something that both our guests have discussed. Time allows me to take up only that much on the program today. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of Perspective, sharing your insights with us and our viewers. Pleasure to be interacting with you on this very, very important and pertinent subject. To you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
Thank you.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल, और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।